You feel the tension in your chest, don't you? That subtle ache that tells you you've been wasting energy on confrontations and pointless arguments. I've personally watched this trap consume people's focus, drawing them away from their real goals. Today, you learn to let others think they've won so you can stay clear, poised, and unstoppable. This shift will transform your life from the inside out. No more burning precious hours trying to prove your points. No more getting dragged into battles over details that won't matter a week from now. Your energy is finite, and every pointless argument drains your reservoir of drive. The moment you stop obsessing over being right, you free your mind for the pursuits that actually change your reality. You become a fortress of calm in a world of noise. Most people cling to the need to win debates because they confuse it with self-worth. They think if they're proven correct, they're somehow validated. But you're here because you see the flaw in that thinking. You want to evolve beyond petty ego struggles and tap into a deeper power. And here's the truth. Real strength isn't about insisting on your rightness. It's about deciding which battles matter at all. Look back at the times you've locked horns with someone who refused to budge. You felt your blood pressure rise, your mind spin, your heart race. Maybe you walked away victorious on paper, but did it really move the needle in your life? Did you truly gain anything except a short-lived surge of pride? Now's the moment you decide to release that hollow pursuit and invest your energy in growth instead. Letting people believe they're right doesn't make you weak. It makes you strategic. It means you've developed the discipline to choose where to place your time, your words, your emotional capital. You're done letting trivial clashes dominate your mind. And the incredible thing is, when you step back, you discover how much headspace you've been giving to conflicts that lead absolutely nowhere. Your focus belongs on building, whether it's building a career, a powerful mindset, or meaningful relationships. Arguments that revolve around your need to be correct only chip away at your foundation. They distract you from the bigger story you're writing with your life. When you master the art of letting them think they've won, you reclaim control of your narrative. Every day is a battleground of distractions, each one competing for your mental bandwidth. Among the biggest distractions are those small disagreements that balloon into hours of mental replay. It's time to close that loop forever. You can practically feel the relief in your chest when you imagine simply letting go, smiling to yourself while the other person basks in their victory. Why does letting them think they're right sting at first? Because it challenges your ego. It's a direct confrontation between your pride and your desire for peace. But here's the secret. Peace is more valuable than pride. Pride burns hot and short, like a sparkler that fizzles out in seconds. Peace, on the other hand, is a steady flame that lights your path for the long haul. Reflect on your greatest achievements. Were they born from arguments, or did they arise from focus and vision? Achievements come from channeling your energy into goals, not clashing with naysayers. You know there's a part of you that's meant to break barriers, build something extraordinary, and carve out your unique place in the world. Let others claim 1,000 empty victories if it means you get to craft one lasting legacy. This mindset shift doesn't mean you surrender your core values. It means you become more selective about when and how you defend them. Not every disagreement about daily trivialities is worth your emotional sweat. When true injustice or vital principle is at stake, you'll stand firmly. But for everything else, let them assume they've persuaded you. Let them feel they've won. Meanwhile, you're quietly advancing on the real front that matters. Some people define themselves by their ability to dominate conversations. They raise their voices, interrupt, and refuse to yield. Yet if you step back and watch them objectively, you see just how tangled they are in their own emotional wires. Their so-called power is superficial. You're here to cultivate a deeper power, rooted in calm, strategic thinking and the ability to choose your battles. Watch how your relationships shift when you adopt this approach. Most arguments, especially in close relationships, arise from misunderstandings or minor slights. Instead of adding fuel to the fire by proving you're right, you allow space for the tension to dissolve. The other person feels heard, you stay composed, and you both move on. Suddenly, small irritations no longer escalate into major rifts. Imagine a heated moment at work. Someone challenges your idea or claims you're mistaken. The old you might have locked horns to protect your pride, but the refined you calmly consider whether the battle affects the outcome that truly matters. If not, you let them savor their stance. That doesn't mean you'll implement a bad idea. It just means you won't drain your energy on a showdown of egos. Letting people think they've won is an exercise in quiet self-assurance. You know who you are, and you know that no one's opinion can shake your personal truth. But they don't need to know your stance, do they? You're not obligated to correct every misconception. In many cases, their contentment in believing they've prevailed serves you both. They feel accomplished, and you remain unbothered. This isn't the same as suppressing your voice. It's about controlling your narrative. If your opinion or correction genuinely improves a situation, offer it calmly and once. If the other person digs in, so be it. Let them hold on to their version of reality if it makes them feel secure. Your sense of identity doesn't hinge on the outcome of that skirmish. When you break your addiction to being right, you liberate a massive reserve of mental energy. That energy can be channeled into your craft, your health, your family, your aspirations. Think of each argument you skip as a deposit into your account of clarity and productivity. Over time, those deposits accumulate, fueling your climb to higher levels of achievement. You might wonder, what if letting them think they're right causes a ripple effect of misinformation? What if it leads to bigger misunderstandings? That's where discernment comes in. If the misunderstanding has tangible negative consequences, address it privately with tact and calm. But if it's a matter of opinion, style, or preference, let them have their day. The universe doesn't hinge on who's correct about minor details. Sometimes the best strategy is subtle guidance rather than outright correction. You can nudge someone in the right direction without shouting them down. Plant a seed, let them think they arrived at the conclusion on their own. This approach fosters goodwill instead of resentful compliance. In the long run, they'll trust you more because you didn't try to steamroll them into agreement. You've likely experienced the rush of being right, that split second of satisfaction when someone says, "Oh, I guess you're correct." It's like a sugar high, fleeting and addictive, but once it fades, you're left hungry for the next fix. Meanwhile, you've squandered time and emotional bandwidth. Shatter that cycle by letting go of the craving altogether. Feed on something far more nourishing, sustained progress toward real goals. This doesn't mean you never stand your ground. Certain values define who you are, and you'll defend them if they're genuinely under attack. The difference is that you'll choose these moments with surgical precision. Your voice will carry more weight because you're not constantly shouting over minor disputes. When you do speak, people listen. They know you're driven by principle, not petty ego. Think of all the people you admire who seem to glide through chaos without ruffling their composure. How do they do it? They've mastered the art of detachment from outcomes, from petty squabbles, from the opinions of the crowd. They understand that the world is bigger than any single argument. You can adopt this same detachment by allowing others their illusions of victory and staying focused on your higher path. Let's make this practical. The next time you feel that impulse to argue bubble up, your heartbeat quickens, your shoulders tense, your voice gets sharper, pause. Ask yourself, does winning this argument advance my deeper purpose? Does it push me toward the life I truly want? If the answer is no, let them carry on. Let them think they've convinced you. Meanwhile, your mind remains crystal clear, ready for what really matters. You might worry that letting others think they're right will erode your self-respect. But in reality, it fortifies it. Self-respect doesn't hinge on how many disagreements you win. It thrives on knowing you can control your emotions, keep your eyes on your priorities, and not be swayed by momentary provocations. You're choosing the higher form of respect, respect for your own path and peace of mind. Picture this scenario. You're at a family gathering, and a relative starts a heated debate over something trivial, politics, diet, or which sports team is superior. The old version of you might be locked in a war of words until someone storms off. The renewed you calmly nods, acknowledges their view, and changes the subject. You leave the event with your relationships intact and your mood unscathed. This skill of letting go benefits not just you, but everyone around you. When you refuse to escalate petty conflicts, you create a ripple of calm. People sense your stability and stop looking for a fight. In a world saturated with tension, your refusal to partake stands out like a beacon of sanity. And trust me, others gravitate toward that kind of centered energy. Society often equates being outspoken with being strong, but true strength has layers. Sometimes the mightiest show of power is the refusal to engage. You demonstrate an unshakable core, a sense of self that's not threatened by someone's differing viewpoint or disparaging comment. As you master this, you'll notice a shift in your presence. People sense you're not easy to rattle or manipulate. Don't confuse letting them think they're right with surrendering to injustice. If you see real harm, bullying, cruelty, corruption, you do stand up. You become the calm voice of reason, not the raging storm. The difference is you're motivated by principle, not personal ego. You speak up to protect or elevate, not to collect empty trophies for your pride. In day-to-day life, most arguments are glorified ego battles that revolve around fleeting opinions. They drain you. They distract you from your momentum. They hamper your creativity because your mental space is occupied by replaying petty exchanges. Letting them think they've won is like cutting the strings of a puppet, freeing you from being yanked into a show you never wanted to star in. Consider how much more productive you become when your mind isn't tangled in constant arguments. Ideas flow with ease. You have energy for that side project or that workout you've been putting off. You can direct your passion into building instead of tearing others down. That's the essence of growth, constructing a life piece by piece, not squandering time on who said what. Sometimes you'll be tempted to provide a final zinger, a neat line that proves your correctness. But ask yourself, what does that really achieve? Maybe a fleeting sense of triumph, but at what cost? You might win the small battle, yet lose an ally or damage the environment around you. Let them claim their hollow victory. You have more important things on your agenda than collecting applause for a witty comeback. If you're worried about being perceived as a pushover, remember that perception shifts over time. When people see you consistently choosing calm, they stop interpreting it as weakness. They begin to recognize it as restraint, maturity, and leadership. They notice that while others chase petty wins, you're quietly ascending to new levels of achievement and self-mastery. Reflect on the psychological toll of arguments, the ruminations, the stress, the sense of something unresolved. All that churn in your head robs you of clarity. And clarity is a priceless asset when you're carving out a path to success. By training yourself to disengage, you protect your mental sanctum, ensuring you can keep your vision in sharp focus. Those who win the war are not always those who win every battle. Sometimes victory means preserving your forces for the real confrontation. The real confrontation isn't about your coworker's misguided comment or your friend's bizarre conspiracy theory. It's about your self-doubt, your limiting beliefs, your procrastination, your fear of failure. That's where your true fight lies. Defend yourself there, not in petty disputes. Over time, you'll realize how much you used to rely on external validation. Winning arguments gave you a short-term ego boost, a sense of being recognized or applauded. But that kind of validation is never lasting. It's a bucket with holes. Authentic validation comes from internal alignment with your values, from mastering your craft, from living in a way that makes you proud of yourself, even if nobody else notices. Think of letting people think they're right as an investment in your emotional bank. Each instance you step away from pointless contention, you deposit a bit more serenity, a bit more energy. Eventually, you build a reservoir so deep that life's random storms can't shake you. That's the kind of wealth no one can take away. And it's formed through consistent small acts of self-restraint. When you start applying this approach, be prepared for confusion from those who knew you before. They might bait you, push you, even insult you to see if you'll bite. Let them exhaust themselves trying. Meanwhile, you respond with a calm nod or a diplomatic phrase, then pivot. They'll soon learn you're no longer an easy target. You've transcended that game. Use your newfound emotional freedom to do something impactful. Perhaps it's starting that fitness routine you've been avoiding or writing that business plan you've delayed. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as it aligns with your bigger picture. The time and energy you save by not engaging in fruitless arguments will be reinvested in tangible self-improvement, elevating every corner of your life. Examine your triggers, certain topics, certain people, certain moments that spark your defensive reflex. Be aware of them. Foreknowledge is power. When you see it coming, when you sense someone stepping on that landmine, choose to respond differently. This choice doesn't come naturally at first, but with practice, it becomes second nature. You'll surprise yourself at how easily you can bypass the drama. Let's talk about relationships a bit more deeply. Arguments with loved ones often hit the hardest because there's so much emotional investment. Yet, ironically, these are the arguments most often about insignificant matters. If you consistently let go, you'll notice a massive decrease in tension. The other person might still get riled up, but you remain steady, effectively guiding the conversation to calmer ground. Picture the long arc of your future. 10, 20 years from now, how many of today's arguments will still matter? Almost none. You won't even remember them. Yet the goals you neglected or the relationships you strained, those consequences might linger. Spare yourself the regret by valuing your peace and progress above fleeting ego battles. It's the difference between living at the mercy of minor spats and living by purposeful design. If you ever feel guilt for not standing your ground, remind yourself that you're standing your ground on a higher plane. You're standing guard over your future, your health, your emotional landscape. Anyone can get sucked into a confrontation. It takes genuine fortitude to decline the invitation. In a world that glorifies fighting back, you stand out as someone who transcends the noise and invests in wisdom. Let's address a common fear. Won't people walk all over me if I don't correct them? They won't, because what you're cultivating isn't passive acceptance, it's selective engagement. You decide which battles truly threaten your well-being or your integrity. For those, you'll stand tall. For everything else, you give them a polite pass. That's not weakness. That's advanced self-command. Consider how letting them think they're right can actually enhance your influence. If you don't constantly challenge someone, they won't erect their defenses every time you speak. Instead, they'll be more open to listening when you finally do offer guidance or a contrasting viewpoint. They trust your restraint. They know you don't correct people just to flex your intelligence. Consistency is key. If you decide to try this once, but then revert to old habits the next time someone annoys you, you won't see the transformation. It's about daily discipline, just like building a muscle. You catch yourself revving up for an argument, you exhale, you let it go, over and over, until your mind and body learn that letting go is your default. Release the notion that you owe explanations for your beliefs. Sometimes silence or a simple acknowledgement is enough. You don't have to provide a dissertation each time someone disagrees. If the situation doesn't have real stakes, like a crucial decision or an ethical line, why insist on converting them? Let them maintain their viewpoint and let your life be an example of deeper truth. A wonderful side effect of this practice is clarity. When your mind is no longer cluttered with mental replays of arguments, you think more sharply. You spot opportunities. You approach tasks with calm confidence. Stress levels drop, creativity rises, and you start aligning with people who share your forward-focused mindset instead of those addicted to petty debates. Watch how your physical body responds. Frequent arguments keep your body in a state of low-grade fight or flight, elevating cortisol, tightening muscles, wreaking havoc on your digestion and sleep. Letting them think they're right serves as a form of self-care. You break the stress cycle, giving your body a chance to repair, to rest, to channel energy into building strength rather than fending off imaginary threats. Your biggest breakthroughs often lie on the other side of letting go. Imagine the mental bandwidth that frees up when you don't have to defend your honor at every turn. That bandwidth can go into problem-solving, creative projects, or even just living more fully in the present. Life suddenly feels more expansive because you're not caged by incessant ego wars. Let's talk about pride, because it's at the core of this struggle. Pride demands recognition, demands that people bow to your correctness, but that craving is a trap. It puts your inner peace in the hands of others, people who might never give you the validation you seek. By letting them think they're right, you cut that tether. You reclaim your independence from external approval. Does this mean you never share your perspective? No, you share it, but without attachment. You offer your view like a gift, without forcing them to accept it. If they dismiss it, that's their choice. You don't lose sleep. You've done your due diligence. You've spoken your truth, but you refuse to turn it into a tug of war. That's the essence of real confidence. Over time, you'll notice a shift in how others treat you. They might come to trust your calm presence or seek your input because you're not always on the offensive. Your words hold more weight because they're less frequent and more intentional. This influence is subtle but immensely powerful. It's leadership by example, rooted in respect rather than fear. Think of your life as a masterpiece in progress. Each day you have a limited palette of time, energy, and emotional resources. You can splash them on petty battles, leaving the canvas messy and chaotic, or you can channel them into deliberate strokes that bring your vision to life. Letting people think they've won is like refusing to waste your finest paints on meaningless scribbles. Even as you adopt this mindset, you might slip. Old habits die hard. You might find yourself mid-argument, raising your voice, your heart pounding. Catch it when you can. Pull back. Apologize if necessary, not for your stance, but for letting the situation escalate. Then pivot, letting the other person have the last word. Each slip is a chance to refine your discipline. Friends, colleagues, even family might wonder why you become less reactive. Some may try to interpret it as indifference, but over time they'll see it's not indifference. It's controlled calm. You're not shutting down. You're stepping up to a more purposeful way of living. And ironically, people around you may start adopting some of your serenity, noticing how arguments simply can't tether you. Don't shortchange yourself by thinking arguments keep your mind sharp. Real mental sharpness comes from curiosity, learning, engaging in constructive debate, debates that have a purpose, that expand understanding. Meaningless bickering is mind-numbing, not mind-sharpening. Let them think they've won so you can engage in deeper, more meaningful dialogues that actually contribute to collective growth. Sometimes letting go provides clarity to the other person too. When you don't push back, they're left alone with their words. They might reflect and realize they were off base. If you had attacked, their ego would have locked in, doubling down on their stance. By giving them space, you invite introspection. Some people will step into that space and reconsider their position on their own. Victory in life isn't measured by arguments won. It's measured by the fulfillment, impact, and freedom you create. Let that sink in. Imagine the goals you've set. Financial stability, artistic success, robust health, strong relationships. None of these hinge on proving you're right in everyday spats. So why let those spats drain your reservoir of willpower, the willpower you need to build the future you crave? Moreover, consistent calm under fire becomes your brand of authority. You're seen as someone who can handle pressure without cracking. Whether in business negotiations or personal crises, people will look to you for leadership because you're not driven by knee-jerk reactions or ego battles. You become the eye in the hurricane, the stable point everyone else gravitates toward. Yes, it might be tempting to set the record straight at times. There's a certain satisfaction in shutting down misinformation or ignorance. But weigh that satisfaction against the time and stress it costs. 9 times out of 10, you'll find it's not worth the trade. Let them keep their illusions. You have real work to do, work that lifts you higher, beyond the petty realms of argument. As you strengthen this discipline, watch your overall resilience grow. Minor inconveniences won't shake you. Unexpected challenges won't send you spiraling. You'll have trained yourself to be fluid, to let the small stuff pass right through you. In a sense, you become unbreakable in spirit because you no longer cling to trivialities as a source of power. Your power stands independent of those fleeting wins. The gains aren't just mental, they're also emotional and even spiritual. You tap into a deeper sense of being, one less entangled in external approval or condemnation. You can be fully present for the people you care about because your mind isn't consumed by the last fight or the next. Even your empathy grows because you're not guarded or defensive. You see people's pain beneath their arguments, and you can respond with understanding. Some may call you aloof. Let them. They don't yet see that you're choosing your battles, protecting your peace, and cultivating inner stillness. That's their interpretation, and that's fine. You have nothing to prove to them. Your actions, your results, your level of fulfillment will speak louder than any defense you could mount against misunderstandings of your motives. When you stop forcing correctness, life feels lighter. Conversations flow more naturally. You become curious rather than combative. Even if you disagree with someone, you explore their perspective with genuine interest. You might still hold your opinion, but you don't impose it. Oddly enough, that's often when real bridges form, and you both learn something new. Imagine looking back a year from now, realizing how many hours you saved, hours that otherwise would have been lost to endless debates. Imagine seeing tangible results from the projects you finally had the bandwidth to tackle. Picture the sense of accomplishment, the deeper relationships, the unshakable self-confidence, all because you learned to let trivial conflicts pass you by. Let this approach extend into your online life too. The digital sphere is a breeding ground for arguments that solve nothing. Before you type that rebuttal, ask, will this help me or them? Or am I just feeding my ego? You might discover that most online debates aren't worth your time. Close that tab. Walk away. Refocus on your goals and guard your inner calm. What about those who feel threatened by your refusal to engage? They might call you out, accuse you of being afraid to stand up for yourself. Here's the truth. You're not afraid. You're strategic. You're investing your energy in creation, not confrontation. They can keep chasing the cheap thrill of winning. You're chasing real fulfillment, real achievements, and real inner harmony. Overcoming your impulse to argue is a training ground for conquering bigger impulses, like procrastination or emotional eating. Self-control is universal. Each act of restraint builds the mental muscle you need to stand firm in other areas of life, too. The discipline you develop here cascades into a disciplined approach to finances, health, relationships, everything. That's the beauty of a single decision rippling out into all domains. If you slip up or regret an argument, use it as data. No guilt, no shame, just learning. Analyze what triggered you, how you felt, and how you can handle it differently next time. Then move on. Don't dwell, because dwelling is just another trap that consumes your mental energy. Let them think they won, let them go, let yourself grow. Rinse and repeat. Recall the bigger battles you might face, ones that actually decide your future, your ethics, or your protection of what you love. Those are the moments you want to be fully powered up for. Those are the times you'll need every drop of emotional control and clarity. By skipping petty spats, you conserve that energy, so when a real showdown arrives, you're sharp and unstoppable. Observe how you'll start taking deeper breaths in tense situations. No more shallow, rapid breathing as you gear up for a fight. Instead, a slow inhale, a calm exhale, a measured response. You exit the battlefield unscathed, your heart rate steady, your mind unburdened. This physiological change is the physical embodiment of your new mindset. Cool, collected, and forward-focused. Letting others think they've won also fosters a sense of quiet mystery around you. People won't always know what you truly believe, and sometimes that's your advantage. You maintain a layer of unpredictability. You can choose to weigh in or not, to be forthright or reserved. Meanwhile, they waste energy trying to figure you out. You keep forging ahead, unencumbered by their attempts to draw you into conflict. Your calm approach also becomes a mirror, reflecting the other person's behavior back at them. If they're looking for a fight, all they get is stillness. That stillness can be jarring, forcing them to reckon with their own aggression. In some cases, you might even diffuse their tension, giving them space to rethink their stance without feeling cornered or humiliated. You aren't burying your emotions. You're liberating them from petty hostilities. Those negative bursts of adrenaline that come with arguments are replaced by a steady pulse of self-assurance. You're not repressed. You're discerning. You choose to invest your emotional energy in growth, creation, and connection. That choice feeds your spirit in a way winning an argument never will. This strategy also pays off in negotiation and leadership. You can let someone believe they have the upper hand while you gather information, plan your approach, and steer the outcome toward a win-win. When they think they're right or on top, their guard lowers, offering you more insight and flexibility. In the end, you might secure a deal that benefits you far more than if you'd battled them relentlessly. Notice this doesn't require you to lie or compromise your integrity. You can say, I hear you, or you might be right, without confirming you fully agree. Sometimes a simple nod or a measured silence does the job. They interpret it how they will, and you keep your resources for the larger victories that actually shape your destiny. At times, you'll feel a rush of pride in your newfound restraint. That's good. Celebrate those small wins. Each time you resist the lure of an unnecessary argument, you reinforce your identity as someone who's cool under pressure. Over weeks and months, that identity cements. You become the person who doesn't get pulled into drama, the one who remains composed while others fight superficial wars. But remember not to rest on that pride. Stay humble and consistent, because the moment you let your guard down, you can slip into old patterns. This practice is lifelong, a continuous act of self-awareness. You'll keep refining it until it's woven into your personality, until letting them think they've won is as natural as breathing deeply when stressed. See how this choice opens space for more compassion. When you don't treat every disagreement as a personal affront, you notice the other person's fear or insecurity fueling their stance. You might see they're just echoing something they heard, or they're stuck in a belief pattern. Instead of tackling them head-on, you let them stand where they are. You respect their journey, even if you disagree. In the grand scheme, letting people believe they've won is a show of your mastery over self, your willingness to pick the meaningful fights and let the rest go. Your mental environment becomes less cluttered, your emotional state less volatile, your direction more purposeful. While the masses expend energy vying to be right, you'll be light years ahead, building, creating, and growing into a force they can't ignore. And now here's the push. Stop chasing hollow victories. Stop spending your days proving points that won't matter tomorrow. Unchain your mind from the need to win in every conversation. Let them believe they've triumphed while you forge your real success, while you strengthen your focus, while you climb to heights that leave empty debates in the dust. The path to greatness isn't about dominating arguments, it's about dominating your own impulses. Choose that path, starting now. And if this mindset shift spoke to you, subscribe, because this is just the beginning of what you're truly capable of.